Hey everybody, this is Pastor Bob and this is Life with Luke number 74. This last weekend we looked at Luke chapter 22 and the familiar scene that all four Gospels record of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. And it's an agonizing, anguishing scene. We know the details well, especially the one about Jesus being under so much pressure, so much stress that the capillaries break in his body and he's sweating drops of blood. That really can happen. It's a really difficult scene to see. It's Jesus being faithful to God, but also being honest as a human being about the limitations that he faces. He does not want to go through with this, to go through not only the physical suffering, but also the spiritual desolation of being separated from his heavenly Father. And so Jesus calls out and he says, I don't want to go through this, but nevertheless, not what I want, but what you want, God. He submits himself to the limit, the calling that God has placed on his life. And in doing so, he also shows us how to live with the limits that are placed on our own lives. The disciples are with him in the garden, and Jesus says to them twice, pray that you do not fall into temptation. What temptation is he talking about? I believe it's the temptation which is the greatest temptation we all face and face it consistently, the temptation to avoid the limits placed on our life. Now, we hate limits. We hate to be limited. As Americans, we want to be, have no fences, no limits, nothing holding us back from our potential. The sky's the limit in terms of what we can do and what we can have and when we can do it and doing things our own way. And it comes to us in our culture all sorts of ways. But God has placed limits on every one of us. We are who we are. We have the temperament and the personality that we have. We were born at a certain time and place. We have the bodies that we do. We have the relationships that we have. We are from our own family of origin, for better or for worse. That's a limit that's placed on our life. And our life has a story, and that story gives us a particular shape to our existence. And we are not to see those things as just limitations or cruel restrictions placed on us by God, but actually as gifts, inasmuch as they are opportunities for us to turn to God in our limits and experience his goodness and his power meeting us there in our limits and accomplishing things that are far beyond our ability. It says in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, it says to Paul, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And that's true for us too. Jesus in the garden chooses to surrender his life to God's goodness and God's power. And thank goodness he did, because it has meant everything for us. He could have left the plan at that point. He could have just tried to live a limitless life, but he didn't. He showed us how to surrender ourselves to the goodness of God in all things. So reflect on this powerful passage. Check out the video, listen to the message, and I hope that you are blessed by it. So have a great week.